All right, ladies and gentlemen, you've heard the introduction, and I'm excited. When you talk about 50 educators from 50 states, it's just amazing on when you connect with educators outside of your state. Usually we do that when it comes down to professional developments. But here on the podcast, Transforming Lives, I am talking to an educator. I call him an educator. He has multiple backgrounds to him, but he's representing the state of Illinois and he's kicking this thing off. I like to welcome to the stage, you've heard his introduction, Clement Townsend. Welcome.
I appreciate that. Thank you for having me. Excited to be on the podcast.
Right. So I want to find out how the weather is in Illinois. I don't know where this desire to find out about weather's come from, but yeah, how's the weather where you are?
The weather in Chicago is pretty good. Certainly, most of the frigid conditions are behind us. I think the last few days we've been touching on 60 degrees, so no complaints at this particular time. If you asked me a month or two ago, I would have told you something different, but it's certainly manageable right now. I can say that.
All right, that's good. The shy, as us people in Mississippi and across the world say, the weather can definitely change with that, with the winds coming from those lakes up there. Definitely good to hear that it has changed over. So I want to jump right into it. Your background is just very vast. And I'll just be open. When you have somebody that has a background like you have, you're like, you straighten yourself up and try to have all your T's and your I's dotted. But you've been in front of a camera for nearly 2 decades, covering major sporting events. My question is, what led you into education and how did this transition transform your perspective on education?
Certainly, I really never expected to be in education. As you mentioned it, I was a sports broadcaster for 17 years, covering some major sporting events. But unfortunately, as things happen in a variety of fields, when I was in Chicago at my dream job, they had some cutbacks. And so I had a decision to make. I could keep doing sports broadcasting, which a lot of times had me moving from state to state. And that was something that I was unwilling to do. So as I did some soul searching and gave some deep introspection into my next move, I started to think about, what do I like to do? TV and media. What else interests me? Certainly young people. I had done Big Brothers, Big Sisters at some other places. And where could I combine those two things? So as I was talking to some people, I talked to a principal and she told me, hey, your media knowledge could really add some value to schools. Schools bring in consultants, they bring in vendors. She said, is that something you're open to? And that was something that I hadn't really thought about, but I was open to about anything because I was looking to change directions. So I went into the schools as a digital media instructor, and certainly coming off of television into school, that was the perspective that I brought. Like, how could my knowledge and my expertise in video, what does that look like in the school building? What does that look like in the classroom? So the way I approached it, the way I taught it, what I did was framed by my prior experiences, and it certainly connected with students. And that just put me on a path to, on down to the next thing where I am today.
So I can remember starting out, seems like light years ago, just started in this field of education, and I was in love with technology, and it didn't necessarily take on in the early 2000s. It was still this pencil and paper. You were focusing on that, and this technology, it's amazing how, even looking at yourself on how broadcasting, it's media, how it can have an impact on the classroom and open up the eyes, not of just the educators, but the children as well, because they use it a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, for sure. Technology has evolved so much. You mentioned paper and pencil. Certainly, when I was in school, 5th and 6th grade, like the internet was just really taking shape, so to speak. When I was in school, like you would go to the computer lab. Like that was a whole separate setup. Like you didn't really have, there were no laptops, there were no MacBooks and Chromebooks. like kids have gym, you would go to the computer lab. That was a whole special thing. So now for obviously the internet to have just exploded over the last couple of decades and things of that nature, and then you couple that with technology, as you mentioned, I would say most schools are one-to-one, whether it's
Mm,
tablets or Chromebooks, and they have a cart or they have MacBooks. Like everything has really just come together and evolved. So whereas in the classroom, when it comes to technology, it's accessible
right,
for most schools. I would
right.
imagine not every school is there, but the pandemic caused a lot of schools that weren't there to
To get
catch up because you had students at home. So schools had to make sure they had some sort of device so they can continue to get educated. But technology has evolved. And then with all that, the way that you can do video has evolved too. So as the internet and the devices and now video, all these factors have evolved and come together to lead us to a place where video creation in the classroom is more accessible and easier now than ever.
we're gonna get to that because I'm excited about just talking about this. How you did an excellent job of just explaining the evolution of technology, the internet. Before we get there, I want to ask you this question: when we look at student creativity, like their freedom through video projects, it's shifted now. How do you think? How do you think projects have shifted? Okay, we're gonna take that one out. All right, let me blah 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 blah. Okay, get it together. All right. So, can we walk through the moment? Do I have this question correct? Hold up, man. Let me get this correct. So, can we talk about how students' creativity have shifted through teaching? And can you walk us through a moment that that you have experienced and how it stuck with you?
That's a great question. As I jog my memory, certainly there was a digital media class that I was teaching, and I had a young man in the class, and it was early in like the school year, but it wasn't the first day though, right? And
Mhm.
so the students knew that we were doing digital media. I had already shared that we would be creating videos in the beginning, and maybe this was like the second class or the third class, and it was now time to start to do a project, so to speak.
Mm,
And I was showing the example to the class, like, hey, this is something that students have done in the past, just giving you all a frame of reference, a point of reference of what
right.
you all would do as we get into this creative process. And this student was like, we get to make videos? He was like, it's like we get to do YouTube videos in the classroom. That's what we're doing.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah. I was like, that's what I have explained the past couple of class periods when you were not focused, when you were talking, like when you were actually here, but just not paying attention. So yeah,
Yeah.
that you are going to create for sure. That's what we're doing in this class. That's what it's all about. And a few weeks later, as we got into the projects, the same young man was excited. The same young man completed the project and did a fantastic job. And then when I told some of the regular teachers, because again, I just come in to do the digital media, I'm not in the
Right.
school the whole day with the core subjects. And I told some of the regular teachers, what this young man had done, they were like floored, thrilled. To them, it was like, you got this young man to be excited about something and to complete something. And it wasn't really a big deal to me because I expect students to complete their work, but that's not always the case for every single student though.
Right. I
But the
agree.
fact that a young man who teachers said school doesn't resonate with him, he doesn't always complete his assignments, the fact that this video project got his attention and got him excited and he did a fantastic job of completing the assignment, that was a eye-opening moment for me. That was a light bulb moment for me. And that was when I knew like it was something here that needed to grow, that needed
Mhm.
to not just be an experience that I had in a school, it needed to be in other schools, it needed to be across the country. That just really stuck with me. And yeah, it made an impact on me for sure.
Right. So when I think about just creating videos, right? So I was excited to run across your social media page, and I saw it a couple of times, and I said, you know what? I secretly love creating videos, math instructional videos. Like I love it. I love going through that process. So when I saw your content and I started to do the research, I was like, the video pro learning. And the first couple of words I heard was supplemental resource. And I was like, okay. So at some point, I'm like, I'm going to have to connect with him so that I can get him here 50 educators, 50 states, so that more people can learn about what you are establishing. So let's talk about it. How does your platform simplify video integration for teachers? And why do you believe simplicity is important in today's classroom?
So I'm glad that you added the part about supplemental. So again, most teachers already have something that they're using, that the school has purchased, that sort of thing, whatever the curriculum is. When it comes to video pro learning, teachers can use their same curriculum. We're not replacing curriculum.
Right.
What we're doing is providing an interactive activity in the form of a student video project to make learning memorable. That's what we're doing. Again, as much as you love to create math instructional videos, still a lot of times students don't have the opportunity to make videos. But students are the ones many times who are watching YouTube, maybe doing YouTube videos. It's a high probability that they're doing TikToks.
High probability, yes.
High probability they're doing TikToks, but they're doing video in a way that's like social, so to speak. But how can we take something that they're already doing and something the teacher is already doing? The teacher's already doing the curriculum, the students are already doing the videos. How can we align those two and give students an experience that like prepares them for the future, that gives them like some professional experience and make it simple? So like when it comes to video creation, these are faceless videos. That's what I always like to articulate, because most people, and I guess rightfully, when they hear video projects, they think film. I have to film something. I have to record something, video production. Mm-hmm. This is not video production. That's not what this is. These are faceless videos where you use different platforms that already have stock media. Folks are probably familiar with Canva. A lot of folks use that for graphic design. They already have videos that students can use in there. Google Vids is a relatively new platform. For those students that, for those schools that use Google Classroom, they already have video in there. And then I'll put WeVideo in the mix. I'll throw 3 of them out there. So students, again, we talked about the evolution of technology.
Right.
You don't necessarily have to record and film and have equipment. These are faceless videos. Students don't have to show their faces. For those students that are hesitant, for those students that don't want to be on camera, it's taking the video that's already there. When we're talking about math, there are word problems. So you have video to describe the word problem, to provide context, and then just let the student go ahead and create and show their understanding visually. It's impactful for sure.
I remember looking at one of your videos, and it was on ratios and proportions, and you were walking the viewer through on how to build what you just described. And I think that's important, because what I found out, when you give students the opportunity to create videos, first thing they're going to ask is, you going to show my face? I don't want to put my face on. I don't put my face on here. Go out there and do the TikTok. But when it comes to math, it's like that. It takes away from their credibility as a student, right?
Hands down.
So that's amazing to hear, because now you move to the point of student ownership, right? It's their work. And also you get into the point where it's higher order of learning, because now you're at the creation stage right there, because now at that stage, it involves the students, and they can't just simply copy somebody's answer.
Absolutely. And let me just expand on that too. I like where you're going. So when I talk with teachers, many times, and let's just stick with math, because I'm pretty sure that's the area in which you excel, an area that you're very familiar with and did a lot of your work in. Teachers said when students are doing worksheets, a lot of time they might just like put anything down. They might not necessarily take pride in their work. But what teachers have told me that I've worked with, when they know that somebody's going to look at their video, they take a little more pride in their work. They're a little more careful in terms of showing their steps. So the teacher then gets more feedback in terms of, does the student really have it? Because like you said, you can't really fake it. Like you have to show your steps. You should show your steps. You don't have to, but
Right.
you should show your steps. And when you do that, the teacher can tell in a more exciting way, a way that relates to the student, and a way that's more exciting for the teacher to kind of watch and assess whether or not the student has it though. So yeah, in terms of assessment and mastery, I'm glad you mentioned that too. It's not just making videos for fun. Like teachers can really assess mastery through these videos as well.
And that's good, because in my mind, and I've communicated that with some educators, if you let your current class create videos, you can use it for that next year, that upcoming year. And that student is saying stuff. And it's always been in my mind. And I found that article, I promise you, I found it. I got it. I'm gonna give it to you before we get off. And that name of that article is this. It talks about, it says, never say anything a kid can say. And it's important, or what I've learned, I can say the sky's blue, and they're like, what are you talking about? And the student that's sitting on the other side of the room, Coach Kimball said the sky blue. Oh, the sky's blue. That's what he said. Come on. I've gotten better with it, but it was like early on, come on, what y'all trying to do to me today? Yeah. We want to transition just a little bit. You talked about the platform. The next part is, I've had coworkers, teachers that I work with now. Many educators feel hesitant about using technology or using videos because of the tech limitations. What are some easy first steps that they can take to empower students without needing to be a video expert themselves?
I'm glad you asked that, because certainly I think that is one of the reasons why some teachers may shy away from it, because they can feel like it's daunting and it's a lot. But really, what I always say is, all a teacher really needs to learn is like the basics, the nuts and bolts. There are a lot of different things that can be done, but teachers only really need to learn the necessary things. So when you're talking about video, it's really just two parts. It's really just the video part and the text part. Those are really the only two parts. So if I mention Canva, or if I mention Google Vids, where do you search for video? If you're looking for kids walking, if you're looking for library books, if you're looking for a pizza, where do you search for the video? And then once you put that on the timeline, like, how would you cut it? If I want to split it, if I want to make it shorter, like, that's the video part. And then the other part is just the text. And then again, most of these things are like drag and drop. Where would I find the text that I'm going to put on the video? And then most people are familiar even from Google Docs in terms of changing the font size, changing a color, those sorts of things, moving it around, like those sorts of things are intuitive. And I feel confident that most educators would be able to pick that up pretty quickly. Yes, music can be added, but that's an additional optional thing that can come later. Yes, transitions could be added, but that's something else that can come later as well. But if you're just trying to get going as a teacher, just trying to get started, it's the video piece and the text piece. And then, of course, just always trying to find the undo button, Coach Kimball. That's the main thing, right? Like, where's that undo button? Whether it's a teacher or a student. I messed up my video. Something happened. I didn't want to do this.
Yeah.
Just find the undo button. That is your friend on whatever platform you're on, the undo button. And I always say this too. Once the teacher has those two things, where to find the video and how to clip it and how to manipulate the text, let the students go. That's it. Let the students go. The students can show the rest. There will always be, and I feel confident, and of course I haven't been in every classroom, but I feel confident, there will always be 2 or 3 students that pick it up fast and they can really assist with their classmates. Hey, how do I do this? Joshua knows how to do that. How do I do that? And he can show them some things as well. It just takes the teacher being open to having some students that show some things that they might not necessarily know. Every teacher is not comfortable with that, but I think it's something they should be open to, allowing students to take the lead in certain situations, and they learn as well. I think that really provides a collaborative atmosphere, a
Right.
collaborative environment in the classroom when teachers are open to allowing students to kind of take the lead and show their knowledge in an area. Yeah, that makes a huge difference. But again, just a couple of things they need to know, and then just go from there. They don't have to know it all, Coach Kim, but they don't have to have a broadcasting degree like me. They don't have to be familiar with advanced video production techniques, because again, this is not video production. This is
Yeah.
just video creation.
And you did an excellent job. I'm listening to you. I'm like, okay, you need to go in some more schools because you made them feel like, hey, I can, and it doesn't matter, where I am in that process. You made it very simple, and that's what
Yep.
it's all about, right? We sometimes make it complicated, and they're like, nah. It was explained in a way that the educators feel comfortable with taking that approach. You don't need it, but I'm just saying, man. Like,
No, absolutely, absolutely. And again, for me, it's always about making sure the teacher doesn't feel overwhelmed. And again, as we talk about the technology, that's why it's so refreshing and such a goal of mine to let teachers know how far this has come. Because again, before, teachers like, oh, I don't have the equipment, and then I have to learn how to use the camera, and then I have to learn like the proper way to record, then I have to upload. All those barriers have been eliminated. All those hurdles have been like taken away, and it's just a couple of key things, as you mentioned, that they need to learn. So I want to reassure teachers that may have been closed to this sort of thing, these type of projects. I want to encourage them, hey, it has evolved in a way that is very easy. And specifically, if we're talking about Google Vids,
yeah,
for those schools that like use Google Classroom, most teachers have already used Google Slides.
yeah,
I think Google Slides, I won't say is universal, but when I present at conferences and ask who's familiar with Google Slides, most hands go up.
yeah.
So it's not a chasm, is not a huge leap from Google Slides to Google Vids. Like, they made it that way. So I definitely encourage teachers to give it a try.
Absolutely. This is excellent. And those platforms most teachers are familiar with. And it's good to show that how you can take those platforms and use it in a very productive way. In your view, how do the video project go beyond academics to help students build real world skills, especially in this world that they're going in? That's going to be different by the time a lot of them get out of school. It's going to be totally different when we talk about creativity and communication more than ever. So, how does this project help them with that?
Certainly, we talk a lot about being future ready. I hear a lot of people talk about teachers are preparing students for jobs that may not exist yet. But I firmly believe that video isn't going anywhere. Whether folks are using Zoom or Google Meet, again, YouTube and TikTok, I often say there will come a time when we're watching videos on our watch. I believe that's not too far off. So whatever the career field that a student will go in, I feel confident that they will be in a better position to succeed and thrive if they have some familiarity with content creation. So if we think about a doctor, when COVID-19 was out, people didn't know, what is COVID-19? Like, we had never
Right.
really heard of that sort of thing. What is this that's going on out there? And people were creating videos, right? Like, doctors were creating explanatory videos to let people know, what is this COVID-19 virus?
Yeah.
If you want to be in an accountant, or I don't know, wealth management, or whatever the case may be, putting videos out there about investing and budgeting and things of that nature. Certainly, food videos are everything. So for a student that wants to own a restaurant, a student that wants to be a chef, Instagram, I had to
Yeah.
just shut Instagram down sometimes, right?
Right.
Because all
Yeah.
the food videos.
Yeah.
So it's not just about content creator, although a lot of students nowadays want to be YouTubers as well.
Right.
I have a kindergarten daughter, and they had a project where the teacher asked them to write about what they wanted to be when they grow up. And it was about 4 or 5 kids that said they want to be a YouTuber. So certainly video creation aligns
Oh,
with those
wow.
students. But I don't want it to be boxed in, whereas, okay, students want to be YouTubers, so they should create. No, if it's a chef, if it's an accountant, if it's a doctor, whatever it is, there's probably going to be or can be a content creation aspect to go along with it. And certainly like social media marketing, like I don't think that's going anywhere as well.
Right.
Pretty much every single company needs somebody to run their social media. So if you have those skills, they can always be utilized in that fashion as well.
Awesome. This has been a helpful video for educators, for school leaders, just parents as well, so that they know that this is available for them. And we get to this point right here. I'm a football coach. I keep saying I'm a football coach. So again, we have this 2-minute warning. And usually what I do is just give you the opportunity. I'm going to move myself out of the way, give you the floor, a minute or so, just letting us know, speaking to the educators on the importance of your project. When we talk about this whole idea of having video pro learning and how important it is to get into the laps of their teachers into school districts. So you got the floor. I'm going to move out the way. You got it, sir.
I would say you cannot get 21st century engagement with 20th century assignments. I'll say that one more time. You cannot get 21st century engagement with 20th century assignments. Students shouldn't be doing the same work that we did in school in 2025, the way technology has evolved. Worksheets shouldn't be all they do. Poster boards, gluing stuff shouldn't be all that they do. Those types of projects, video projects, are now relevant to students, right? How can we present learning to them in a way that's relevant, in a way that brings learning into their world? Research has already shown for a lot of students, it's not always about their academic ability, it's about their motivation level. It's about how are the assignments that teachers giving them allowing students to be motivated to do their work, getting students enthusiastic about doing their work, giving students to have a positive learning experience so they can be lifelong learners. That's what I feel that video projects bring to the classroom. Students are enthusiastic. I've seen it. I've got the testimonials to prove it, the receipts. I've got it from educators. Students are enthusiastic. They're motivated. They have a positive attitude to learn, and they complete their assignments. And when those things come into play, those lead to those positive academic outcomes that we're all looking for.
I had to put myself on mute because you came pretty hard, sir, right there at the end. You provided some excellent info and knowledge to help educators, whoever's listening, move forward. And you close this thing out just like a broadcaster would. So again, I appreciate you. How can the viewers reach out? How can educators reach out to you to learn more about Video Pro Learning?
Certainly visit the website, videoprolearning.com. Certainly visit the website, videoprolearning.com. Always looking to connect with math educators, specifically elementary math educators. And we talked about it before. You don't have to change your curriculum. Whatever curriculum you have, we just come alongside, supplemental, and provide these interactive video projects. And then videoprolearning@gmail.com. If they want to send me an email, videoprolearning@gmail.com. I'm super active on LinkedIn. So, if they want to find me and see what I'm doing or send me a DM, I stay on LinkedIn. That's my favorite social media platform. Always happy to connect with educators and support them. That just brings me joy.
All right. Thank you so much. This concludes Transforming Lives, 50 educators from 50 states. You've heard the information. You've got the contact. So please, it's also in the description. You all have a great one. We're out.